Howdy, we are Group 10, and this is our project over COVID-19 data and vaccinations. The team members consist of Antonio Recio, myself, Paul Intigel, Colin Goralczyk, Will Reynolds, Faith Ajayi, and Brandon Eubank. What motivated our research goal was the fact that when we looked around at vaccine data, we noticed that there were maps that only showed vaccine counts available for that current week and not a total count over the entirety of vaccine distribution. And so what we wanted to create was a functional and informative COVID-19 webpage that allows you to analyze the relationship between social vulnerability index and total vaccines allocated by county in Texas. We'll get straight into the demo and show you what was created, and then after we'll discuss the steps that were taken to come up with all of this. So here is our webpage. On the left-hand side, we have a table of contents section that will link you to the relevant resources to our data and COVID-19, and I'll open up the different links. So here's the vaccine allocations per week from December 14th to the most current week. And here is just relevant COVID-19 vaccination information. And here's the CDC's social vulnerability index documentation that we pulled our data from. And here's the Texas COVID-19 vaccine availability by separate hubs throughout Texas. So the choropleth map on the left-hand side visualizes the different ranges of social vulnerability index from 2018. And so here, the lighter colors represent lower SVI value and red indicates higher. The pop-ups will display the county, SVI value, and population. And then the map on the right-hand side will visualize the current total vaccine counts that have accumulated per county as of 4/16 of this year, and since vaccine distribution began on the week of December 14th. The pop-ups here will display vaccine counts by type and total vaccine counts overall. So we have, Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and the total. And the total is which is how the symbology was created. Also at the bottom of the page, we will have the description of team members that were part of the group. And as stated in our research goal, we have created a functional and informative web page that has embedded 2 web applications where we can draw some conclusions between vaccine distribution and social vulnerability.
So for our data, we chose to use census shapefiles for Texas County to get a baseline of information. We pulled the CDC's SVI as of 2018 and compiled that into our data. And then additionally, vaccine allocation from the Texas Health Department. Next slide, please. And basically, census gave us population and shapes of the counties. All the, for the CDC, they had their index was basically to determine how socioeconomic factors can affect people in an emergency and what communities might need additional supports in such a situation. Basically, what we found with that is that SVI tended to be, or indicated that more rural counties were more vulnerable in general. And then for the COVID-19 vaccine data, we pulled that from PDF, had worked with it to get format for ArcGIS Pro, and then summarized it, or it was summarized by week and which county it was going to. Basically, as one might expect in this situation, major cities got most of the vaccinations because they had higher populations.
So to begin with some of the methods that we used in this research, we began in ArcGIS Pro doing some data manipulation. This is because the downloaded data often listed counties more than once, as each county has separate health centers and places that are allocated vaccines. So if we were to join that straight to a Texas County shapefile, data would be left off as the join excludes anything after the first count. So to work around this, we added some fields to the Texas County shapefile. And what this did was it allowed us to use the summary statistics tool to populate the field. So for example, week 1 Moderna, week 1 Pfizer, week 1 Johnson & Johnson were fields that we created all the way up until we had the totals for each listed under Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and then total vaccines. And then by using the summary statistics tool, could summarize the county totals per week downloaded, and it would then populate the Texas County shapefile with the data required for this research. And then moving on to ArcGIS Online, we brought in the Social Vulnerability Index and displayed it by counts and amounts by color to show the gradient between the low and the high SVI counts, and then configured the pop-ups to display the relevant information, such as location, the SVI itself, and the population. And then for the vaccine data and distribution, we displayed it as counts and amounts by size to show the total vaccine allocation per county. And then configured the pop-ups to display the county as well as each of the vaccines counts. And then finally, the total vaccines distributed to that county. And both SVI and vaccine distribution layers were used in the Web App Builder program to create and configure the user-friendly application that was later embedded into the HTML code that we just saw.
All right, for the HTML code, we separated our document into 3 columns. On the far left was our content section with relevant links that we used hyperlinks for, which would direct you to other web pages. The other 2 columns were equal size with our maps that we created, we embedded using the code provided by ArcGIS. You can see below, and we also used inline CSS for our formatting for the web page. The next slide has our snippets of our code. That's it.
Based off the 2 web maps that were created, counties with larger populations were given larger quantities of the vaccine. When analyzing the social vulnerability index of each county, some of these counties that had a social vulnerability index were also given higher quantities of the vaccine as well. When analyzing both the population size and the social vulnerability index of each county, it appears that the vaccine distribution lines up more with the size of the population of each county versus the actual index. This may be due to the nature of COVID-19 and how it spreads. This would also account for the fact that several vulnerable counties were not given as many vaccines as their less vulnerable but larger counterparts.
So that concludes our presentations. Any questions?